Welcome, Coaches Roundtable. I'm Ed Codi. To my right, the Swami, George Abraham. To my left, the Tiger, Albert Campman. Guys, last week, a regular football season. Playoffs will be starting. Already playoffs in other sports and soccer and tennis and volleyball. Let's go to our Spotlight High School football top passers. Ryan Palmieri, Pine Richland, 161 yards. Raphael Bartley of Mars, 144. Max Schnorr of Butler, 138. That gives him 1,271 on the season. Joey Prentice of North Catholic, 131 yards. He had 3 touchdown passes in the first quarter. You'll see that game this week here on Armstrong Cable Television. Check for your listings. And I'm going to make a correction. He threw to 3 different receivers, Jack Fennell, Tyler Mazarik. I gave Mazarik credit for 2 in a row. Actually, the third one was to Kyle Topinski. Logan Kushner of North Allegheny, 125 yards. Eric Boer of Karn City, 121. And Eli Anderson in the backup role for Slippery Rock High School. He throws 5 touchdown passes. Receivers, Micah Rupp of Karn City, 3 for 88. Braylon Littlejohn of Butler, 2 for 73. In rushing, Sal Laurie of Rochester, 180. Brooks Eastbum of Pine Richland, 165. Cooper Baxter of Butler, 144. Brock Borgo of Hampton, 127. That puts him over 1,000 on the season at 1,008. Kyle Topinski of North Catholic, 103. And Christian Liberto of Hampton, 102. Borgo and Liberto each week for Hampton, they go over 100 yards. That's why they're 9-0. And I got to mention this, Rodney Gallagher of Laurel Highlands put on a highlight reel Friday night. He carried the ball 20 times for 285 yards, completed 10 out of 12, and 5 touchdowns rushing, completed 10 out of 12 passes for 110 yards and another touchdown. He's the best athlete in the area.
Yeah, he's a big-time college player.
High school soccer, Landon Money of Butler, a school record 63 goals. He beats his father coach's record of Troy, who had 62 in his career at Butler. Dean Shupp of Mars, he had 3 goals in a 4-0 playoff win. And McKenna Martin of Karn City, she had 7 goals last week. She has over 100 for her career. She has 49 so far this season. That's hard
49 1 year.
49 in 1 year and more games to come.
Yes.
And her teammate Emma Daly, she had 3 goals. She has close to 60 for her career. She has 28 assists this season. And in tennis, WPL Finals 2A, Swickley Academy 4, number 1 seed, Knock 1. Knock 11-2 now looks toward the PIAA tournament. And BC3 women volleyball team is 15-0. They won the Region 20 championship. Brianna Reisinger, she was the tournament MVP. Next up, they will host the Division III Mid-Atlantic tournament at Butler Community College this weekend.
Brianna played at Elwood City, and she was an outstanding athlete. Outstanding.
Let's go to our football power rankings. In 6A, at the top, still undefeated, Mount Lebanon, followed by Central Catholic, North Allegheny, and Seneca Valley. The big game this week is North Allegheny at Seneca Valley. That will determine 3rd place. In 5A, undefeated at the top, Moon, followed by Penn Trafford, Gateway, North Hills, and Penn Hills. In 4A, it's Belle Vernon undefeated, Hampton undefeated, McKeesport, Aliquippa, and Thomas Jefferson. How about McKeesport running all over TJ with over 300 yards rushing to beat them 42-28?
McKeesport is always scary.
They're always
scary.
always run the ball too.
Always.
Yeah.
I'd go back a few years ago when they got screwed out of that championship.
They did.
Terrible calls. And in 3A, at the top, Central Valley 9-0, North Catholic in a game we did with Freeport. In a strange game, we gave Freeport credit for how they got.
A lot of credit.
Georgia, 9 plays. In the first 8 minutes of the first quarter, North Catholic was up 20-0. And then Freeport shut them down the rest of the way. 1 touchdown, the other score came on a pick 6.
You're nothing better than winning a game and putting a film on and say, we need to get better. If we want to beat Central Valley,
right,
we can't play for 2.5 quarters like this.
Elizabeth forward in number 3, Avonworth 4th, Slippery Rock High School in there at 7-1. In 2A, it's Stowe Rock, Sarah Catholic, Washington, Laurel, Still Valley, Westinghouse, getting Carn City in there at 8-1. And in 1A, it's Clairton, Bishop Canevin, Cornell, Carmichael's, Rochester, and Leechburg. Final week, and then the playoffs will start. Let's go to our stories of the week. College football, Pitt 27, Clemson 17. Pitt's Kenny Pickett, a tremendous game against the number 2 defense in the country. He shredded them for 302 yards passing, 2 touchdowns. Pitt put up 466 yards. I don't think Pickett's going to win a Heisman Trophy, but in my opinion, he's the best quarterback in college football.
He's playing great. I think Corral's still better, but I think he's the second best. I think he's been on our film all since he's a freshman. He's just one of those guys that can run, can throw. Now that he's older, knows every defense facing him. He's a tremendous player. That's all there is to it.
Yeah, great decision-making ability. And on a 4th and 5, and he threw the post-pattern touchdown pass, he just looked around, and boom, the ball was out of his hands as soon as he saw the receiver there. But I also want to give credit to Pitt's offensive line. All the mention always goes to the running backs, Abanaconda, and of course to Pickett, but led by 3-year starter Jake Cradle. He's a small guy in the line at 6'3", 305. These tackles are massive. Carter Warren, 6'5", 320, and Gabe Hoy, 6'6", 325. And then you have the guard, Marcus Minor, who's 6'4", 325. They do a great job. They don't get enough credit.
That's number one on George and I's list. We give the credit to offensive lines all the time. I truly believe that in the pros and college, you cannot win without an offensive line and a quarterback on the offensive side and a pass rusher on the defensive side. And Pitt has all 3 of those.
This has to be one of the biggest offensive lines in college football.
And the other thing, too, for Pickett, it's easy to gloss over 1 interception.
23 touchdown passes, 1 that's why I say he's the best quarterback in the country. I was listening to the gurus on ESPN who feel that the schedule is a major detriment to him winning a Heisman.
They didn't come out. They didn't give him the Heisman vote early. Pitt didn't campaign for him well enough.
Yeah.
They should have campaigned.
Started it early last year.
Yeah, no question.
Well, there was a little bit of indecision whether he was coming back or not,
Absolutely.
right? But still, they should have jumped on that.
You have the New Hampshire and UMass, which are clown shows. Then you lost to Western Michigan.
Yeah,
that's
that
probably
hurts.
the bad of all those 3. That's probably the worst.
Hey, the interesting play in the game was when Pitt linebacker Servocia Dennis intercepted that shovel pass and went 53 yards for a touchdown. You knew the game was over at that point. Clemson quarterbacks, they just don't have that decision-making ability that Pickett has. Although in defense of DJ Ugalali, he hit Shipley down the middle for what should have been a touchdown pass, and he dropped it. Not a huge difference in the game, but hey, that's part of it.
Right now Clemson's in disarray, and because they're so used to winning easily, it's not coming easily for them this year. And when the fans are on you, and Debo, however you say his name is.
Ugalele.
No, I'm talking about the head coach.
Oh, the head.
Dabo
That's
Sweeney.
it. Dabo is saying things now they never said before.
He's not used to
He's
it.
falling apart a little bit, and that's what happens. Back to Pitt, Eddie. I think it's really important that Narduzzi. We've been on his case a lot. He deserves a lot of credit that he's given this offense to Whipple and said, I don't want to play conservative anymore. We got this quarterback. Let's play this way.
Yeah.
He said, let's play this way. And defensively, he finally got a couple corners can cover. It took him all this time to find a couple that could cover. Congratulations to him.
Pitt moves up to number 17, the first time under Narduzzi that they've been ranked this high. First time they've cracked the top 20 since 2009. Next up comes Miami, 31-30 upset winner over North Carolina State. They don't look good. They're 3-4, but they've beaten Pitt 3 straight years in a row. Pitt's coming off an emotional high game. Favored by 10. How do you guys see this?
If they were going to Miami, I think
worried.
Miami beat them. But coming up here, the weather might be bad. George always hopes for that weather in the game. But Pitt's favored by 10 points. That's a lot. Miami almost beat North Carolina and then beat North Carolina State. And they're both very similar to Pitt. So
There'll be no crowd. There's no noon. That game's at noon. They'll be waking
at
people
noon.
up to try to get them to come in.
Pitt atop the coast of Wake Forest, atop the Atlantic. They're 7-0. First time they've been undefeated this far in the season since 1944. They beat Army 70-56.
That score.
They have a tremendous offense, but defensively, it'd be an interesting game if they play Pitt for the ACC championship.
Yeah, it would be. I'd say, it'd be a high-scoring game.
Hey, take the over. I don't know what it is. Take the over.
Illinois 20, Penn State 18 in a record 9 overtimes. Let me ask you something. Who invented this system? It's the dumbest overtime in history. These guys are the ones they'd screw up a one-car funeral or a crowbar. I could see you give these guys a cake mix recipe and they'd screw that up. Is it too hard to just say 8-minute overtime, whatever it is at the end of 8 minutes? That's it if it's a tie. Or whatever.
If you want to take a crazy chance late to not have a tie?
Yeah.
You know what I said, Al? As dumb as it is, see, I had never seen it play out. I saw San Diego State, Utah, they only went 2. I hadn't, where they run to the other end and do it, then they run back and, oh my gosh, is it dumb.
And this, you talk about concern for the welfare of the athlete. This game took, 4.5 hours? Talk about putting players at risk with fatigue. The NFL does it right. 10 minutes. That's it. I'd say for college football, you go to 8 minutes. Whatever it is at the end, like you said, if you're down by 6 or 7, whatever, then you take your chances.
You want to go for 4th and 5 in your own 30? Okay.
Right. And it changes your strategy about punting and what you're going to do. Who came up with this system?
Oh, and it is.
Who are these guys?
It's nothing that determines the game. It has nothing to do with how the whole rest of the game was played.
Just crazy. How about the Illini? They ran all over Penn State for 356 yards rushing.
Yeah, Bielema brought the Wisconsin way into Illinois, and he hasn't been able to use it till this game. They could not stop Penn State. There's nothing worse. It's the worst feeling there is in sports, where they tell you we're going to run it right here.
It's what he did when he was at Wisconsin.
No, that's what I said. They finally came through, and Penn State would not change. They would not walk another safety up. They wouldn't. I hate people would say, we're tough. We're going to stay like it is,
Yeah.
and they get beat
It's
because
all about adjustments.
No, that's what's called adjustments.
I'll give Freeport credit. They tried
They
to
did
make
make
the press
adjustments.
cut
Yes, they did.
coverage. Then they adjusted. Next up for Penn State doesn't get any better, guys. They're out of Ohio State. The Buckeyes are rolling. 2 of the best receivers. Who's covering Ole?
They're not covering him.
Lobby.
Yeah, a lot of
Hey, all you need to know is the dude doesn't get on the field.
Fleming.
He's the number 1 receiver in the country 2 years. He doesn't get on the field.
Our college football power rankings, Georgia at the top. Next up, Florida. They didn't play last week. Cincinnati had a tough one with Navy, like a lot of teams do. Won by 7. Next up, Tulane. Ohio State, I have them at 3rd. They beat Indiana. Penn State coming up. Oklahoma 4th. Struggled against Kansas, but came back. Texas Tech next. Alabama 5th. They beat Tennessee. They have a week off, and then LSU. Michigan at number 6, 7-0, beat Northwestern. Here it comes, the game of the week. They're at Michigan State. Number 7 is Michigan State, 7-0. First time these 2 teams have been undefeated, ranked in the top 10 since 1974. Who do you guys like in this game?
I like Michigan State. They've not played good, but it's their year. You understand that? They find ways to win.
They're finding ways to win. That's all that matters.
So I think
20 portal too, Eddie. 20 from the
it's hard for
portal.
me to believe that Michigan struggles with Michigan State anyway.
Yeah.
And now Michigan State.
yes.
I'd love to have Michigan, but Michigan State.
I'm leaning towards Michigan only because Michigan State has had their number the last few years. I just think it's hard to keep that going. I look for Michigan to win a very close game.
Well, if you're asking who's going to win,
Yeah.
Michigan could win, but they're giving 3.5 points to Michigan State.
I understand.
They shouldn't be giving points
Yes,
in a row.
yes.
Not in that game. I'm telling you, that game is tough when they're not good, Michigan
Right.
State. And they're good.
Oregon at number 8, they're 6-1, a close, tough, hard win over UCLA, 34-31. Next up, Colorado. Number 9, rolling Ole Miss, 6-1. They beat LSU, 31-17. They got a tough one. They're at Auburn. Number 10, I have a tie. Notre Dame, 6-1, 31-16 over USC. Next up, North Carolina. And Wake Forest, 7-0. They beat Army. Next up, oh my God, poor Duke.
Notre Dame's hanging in there. Nobody's talking about them.
They're a lot like Michigan
they're
State.
They're right there, and they keep moving forward. And all of a sudden, at the end, they're going to be 11-1 and say, "What do we do with Notre Dame?"
Yeah.
No, absolutely. That's a big game for them, Carolina.
Yeah, and they're a young team too. So for them to be 6-1 with a young team and a young offensive line is pretty good. Hey, local college, Slippery Rock survived. Mercyhurst went up there. Mercyhurst was 2-5. Looked like it'd be an easy game. It wasn't. The Rock won 20-17 on a 30-yard field goal with 1:24 left by DJ Opsatnik. Slippery Rock 7-1 now, 4-1. They're now ranked 17th. And here's the exciting news: they're back in the PSAC West race after Cal stunned IUP 38-34. IUP's up 34-24 with a minute 40 to go, and you're saying,
Oh my
that's
gosh,
it.
Eddie.
Boom,
Oh
boom.
my
Cal
gosh.
scored 2 touchdowns in a minute
What a way
40.
to lose. Oh my.
I wouldn't be surprised they lose again this week, IUP.
Oh.
That puts a rock right in there.
That puts a Rock in there. California undefeated, they're ranked number 5. If the Rock beats Gannon, they come home November the 6th and beat California. They win the PSAC West, and they're into the playoffs.
By a field
How about that?
They kick the field goal. You know, some people keep forgetting there's offense, there's defense, and special teams.
Third
You know
of
how
the
many
game.
games this year have been lost with missed field goals? I watch it every week on pros and call it. Congratulations to the kicker.
The kicking game and the stuff we see, even see it in the pros.
Oh,
and pros. I was
pros,
telling
extra
George
points.
why these guys let the punch drop. They don't fair catch it.
Oh, it drives
and
you
the
nuts.
ball
It's-
bounces
it's-
another
it's-
10 feet. It
it's,
drives you
prevalent
crazy.
now.
I cut the guy. I cut him on the spot. That's why I couldn't coach.
First of all, I'd never put one guy back there. I always put 2 guys back to help one another on the punt. But that's a tremendous break that the Rock got. The only thing I want to say is this: they only had 92 yards rushing. They must get this rushing game going if they want to get into the playoffs and do well.
And they're not going to, because, as I said, I've said it on the show many times, the rushing from Slippery Rock came from their quarterback. And this quarterback.
And that opened up for the running
No,
back.
that's what happened. They had to
Yeah,
play
no,
both of them.
running. They had
So
to
now,
defend both.
when they put the ball into the running back,
Yeah,
it's
carry
a run.
Well,
the quarterback's not a runner.
No, he's not a runner.
Hey, Grove City 6-1, 5-1. They were idle. Next up, they take on W&J at home Saturday. Westminster upset number 11 W&J 23-18. Quarterback Cole Knitz got 278 yards and 2 touchdowns. Wide receiver Tylen Elam had 10 catches for 173 yards and 2 TDs. Look at the standings here. Westminster has Bethany next, but W&J 5-1, Westminster 5-1, CMU 5-1, and Grove City 5-1.
Yes, it's great for fans, but it's not good for the league, because now they're going to get low rated again. You know, they were hoping WJ would win it. They already beat John Carroll. They would
Yeah.
get a high ranking. No, it's not. No,
And see, what happens to that league, they have a 500-mile rule. So guess who game 2 is always against? Mount Union.
Mount Union.
Mount Union.
They're going out.
And Grove City, they're going to talk forever how the 1-point loss
Oh,
at Westminster.
I love their team. That's the team I love.
Yeah.
The Grove City's the one I really like. I
next
like their
week
team a
at
lot.
home, you know, they can beat WJ.
Oh, I
at
see
home.
it coming. Oh, I see it
Absolutely.
coming.
Let's move on to the NFL. The Steelers are open. Next at the 4-3 Browns. The Browns with a 17-14 win over Denver with their backfield decimated. Their starting tackle out of the game. But Ernest Johnson, who's been cut by every team, I think, in the NFL. No one wanted him. He only ran a 4.8 at the Combine. He ran for 146 yards. Good job by backup quarterback Case Keenum. No Nick Chubb, no Kareem Hunt, no Baker Mayfield. The Cleveland offensive line just crushed Denver, and that's without the starting tackle, Jack Conklin, who returns this week. Nick Chubb returns. They ran for 180 yards. The question is, Baker Mayfield wants to play. He has that
He's not playing.
torn labrum
I don't
and a
think he's playing.
broken bone in his left shoulder. He wants to play. If you're the coach, or don't the team
Don't play him.
physicians have something to say about
Yeah,
this?
don't play. You know, you made a great point, Eddie. I have to talk about. I'm so tired of analytics in sports. I watched him play at South Florida, Ernest Johnson. He was always the best player on the field.
Yeah.
He goes to the Combine, and because he runs a 4.8, they say he can't play. When did they watch him? Every game he plays in the pros, he looks great. Every time he plays college, he looks great. Please stop throwing those times out. A football player is a football player.
Absolutely.
One day I was watching, it was cleanup time, and he got a draw. Next thing I know, he's standing down the other end. I called my buddy. I said, "Who's that guy that's going to play this week?" He says, "That's Ernest." I said, "I don't want that." Didn't he have the first touchdown, rush for 160 yards, both?
I think he had 146
Yeah.
rushing. But I remember
Right there.
Lombardi said about Paul Hornung, he said, he can't run in practice. He said, I don't know what it is in the game, but he can
He can
run.
play. No, he can play. He can play.
That was if you just went by 40-yard dash, you'd never play him.
Franklin Harris was one of those guys.
Usain Bolt would
Rocky
be the,
Blyer was the same
Hey,
way.
Usain Bolt would be in the league if it was all 40 time.
Right, absolutely.
It's not.
Boy, he's a tough customer. And then Kelly come in, he ran the ball well, and the rookie
Well,
out
their
of
offensive line,
UCLA.
and I'm giving the
Felton.
offensive line credit.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I'm going to give them all the credit, but don't tell me that you can't run just because you have a certain time. I don't want to hear about the time.
Absolutely. There's toughness.
Yes,
And
and vision,
squaring off.
There's a lot of things
holes.
happen goes on. Yes.
Hey, I'm
You know how
telling
far 4.8 and 4.6 is? How far? Look, that's
you know-
how
you know
that's
what
how
else-
far it is.
You know what else too? You know, look at that team. Like this coach has history with Keenum, and I told Al the other day the line had just dropped ridiculously from like 6 to 1.5 against Denver. If Keenum doesn't make any mistakes, he's more valuable than Mayfield. Now Mayfield will do something Keenum can't, but he'll also do something crazy Keenum won't.
Yeah,
But he's
and that's
had
why
it.
the offensive line's so important.
Yeah,
The offensive
and-
line steps up like they block like they did. And Pittsburgh's been lousy against the run. That's what I'm worried about.
That offensive line's best in pro
Yeah,
football.
Seattle doesn't run the ball like they did against Pittsburgh.
No.
Well, Seattle and Denver both ran the ball in the second
Yeah.
half against
No, Pittsburgh
The
just
only
can't.
thing I'll say about Mayfield, he was having a good year. Even those games they lost, he was thrown for 300 yards, wasn't turning it over. But with you have those kind of injuries, I would think the medical staff would step in and say, listen, you should have your surgery now. You want to be ready for next year.
He's the number
He
one.
has a
But-
contract.
it-
Ed, he's looking at he's the next guy off the merry-go-round with the big contract.
But they said he played last year with busted ribs against the Steelers.
He's the number one pick. If you
Yeah.
want to put value in your number one pick, he shouldn't be playing.
Right.
Not until he's healthy.
No, I don't.
Hey, the Browns favored by 3.5, and he's
About right.
No,
No.
about right. I would think so. No joke anymore. Cincinnati 41, Baltimore 17. They're looking past the Bengals. I want to give the Bengals credit. Burrow threw for 406 yards. They put up a total of 520. They also ran the ball down Baltimore's throat, 120 yards rushing. Also, and Jamar Chase, 8 receptions for 201 yards.
He was part of that LSU connection. But more importantly, Eddie, you left off the most important thing. Cincinnati's defense.
I've got it right here.
Oh, that a boy.
5 sacks.
5 sacks. What I tell you, pass rush is the key. And all of a sudden, Jackson, remember, he's been dominating. He looked
Yeah.
so normal in that game because he was running for his life. You know,
Yeah.
If you get a pass rush, and that's what.
And
what?
it came from the perimeter. Their ends
They
got
kept them in there.
upfield
Yeah, they
and-
kept them in
and
there,
Closed it in. Next up for the Jets, next up for Cincinnati, they play the Jets, who lost 54-13 in the win.
Won't be the same this week. You heard me say it right
Where's the
now.
game?
Yeah.
The Jets, who are pros, remember the pros.
Yeah.
They are gathering this week saying, listen, we were embarrassed last week. They're going to play their tails
Just like
off.
the
We'll see
Giants
what
this
Cincinnati is made of because it's easy to win,
Absolutely.
but then how do you handle that
true.
kind of
That's like the Giants last week. You know, Carolina's going in there. Everybody, okay, that's what you
Exactly. In the NFL, they all play every week. They try.
Right.
If you get embarrassed, they come back double of that next week.
Hey, your boy at Carolina is falling into disfavor with Matt Rule. He got benched. They're trying very hard to trade for Deshaun Watson. He's like Jordan. He throws as many to the other guys as he does to his own. It's just not going to work out for him there. I think he's the lowest rated quarterback starter in the NFL, and they're desperately looking. The deal to get Deshaun Watson will cost them at least a number 1 and a number 2 pick
I'd
at
see
least.
2 1s and a 2. Hey,
You know you're go on, George.
go ahead.
You're embarrassed. You know how if you're looking for Watson, that means you are really fed up with Darnold.
Yeah, they are.
Because
Well, he
Watson
pulled him out of the game.
Because Watson is a detriment to any team going to, and they're thinking, well, I don't care, we'll take the chance.
Hey, how about
Yep.
Miami? Poor Miami. The kid throws for 4 touchdowns, 300 yards, comes out of the game with a lead. They still blame him. They're trying to get Watson, and if Miami finishes bad, the Eagles get the pick anyway. You talk about bad luck.
Crazy. Hey, Tennessee 27, Kansas City 3. This is Tennessee after losing to the Jets. They
There it
beat
is again.
Buffalo. They beat Buffalo and Kansas City. The Chiefs now 3-4. Tennessee 5-2. Mahomes 20 of 35, an interception, 206 yards. But here's what's happening. I'm looking at him. he's lost this decision-making ability in protecting the ball. We've always talked about that decision-making ability. It's innate. You can't coach it. We've all been coaches. Kids either have it or they don't have it. So how did he lose this? How does he get it back?
It's really simple how he lost that. It must be my theme today. He's running for his life. And when you're running for your life, they all become normal in the pros.
But he did that before, Albert, but he made decisions.
But only once or twice a game. Now he's running every play. He's on the run. So they can't block.
It's just a shock that
They're done.
There's a lack of confidence there.
You got the Chargers in that league. You have the Raiders in that league, and
Yes.
they're not better than either one of them.
Hey, Thursday night, Green Bay at Arizona. Green Bay 6-1 at Arizona 7-0. They picked up the tight end from the Eagles, and he's been terrific for them.
Ertz. I talked to their strength coach after the game the other day, and I just said, "Hey, way to go, keep it going." He goes, 1 week at a time." You know,
And it's the truth.
The old nonsense, but that's a short week. That favors the home team.
Adams is out right now, though. So you understand? He is
COVID-19.
so big with Green Bay.
He's the main guy.
Oh,
He's
so
as
big.
good as anyone in pro
Yeah.
football.
Oh, yes.
Is he any good on a
he's the
slippery
best.
field?
Major League Baseball, the World Series, Houston and Atlanta. Houston 5 straight years they advanced to the American League Championship Series. Now their third appearance the last 5 years in the World Series. They beat Boston in 6 games. Were there any garbage cans being banged? Here's what I'm just going to say. I've said it before. They took a beating over that. But baseball cheating has been as American as apple pie and Chevrolet. It's gone on for years and years and years, but they got beat up over it. I told you about the night Haddix threw the perfect 12 innings. The Braves stole every signal from the park catcher and still couldn't hit Haddix. They've done this cheating from Ebbets Field to Fenway Park with their cameras and stealing signals. So they got beat up. I'm rooting for Dusty Baker, one of the good guys in baseball. I think he's done a terrific job there.
He has. He really has. One of the things I'll say, though, if they don't win this one, Houston doesn't win this one, that cheating is going to stay on their resume. If they win this one without it, then they'll say, well, this was a really good team.
I think the thing too, Ed, it was more about them cheating electronically than with like the naked eye. And
Like they used to do with the binoculars.
yeah.
They used to send guys. I remember. I think the Pirates did one time. Called a timeout, and some come out pointing at someone, and what might have been in Chicago. That
It was
they,
in the
they made
scoreboard.
they made him go over there and shut the flap, whatever it was.
Yeah,
in
the
scoreboard. There was a
scoreboard,
guy
right.
in there with this has been going on for years. As we said before, baseball turned a blind eye to the steroid era because of all the money involved and the fans coming back to the ballpark.
Money.
Absolutely. Hey, let's finish up. The Pens are 3-0-2. Without Crosby and Malkin, they're averaging almost 4+ goals a game. Doing a terrific job. Mike Sullivan, I just think he's coaching his best. He moved ahead of Bausma in total wins in Penn's history with 253 with a 5-2 win over Chicago. But with injuries and COVID and the shuffling of the lines, he's done a terrific job.
Good start. Can't say anything about it than that. It's a great start.
And there's so much going on right now, it's hard to. What do you pick to watch at night when you have baseball on, football
I pick baseball.
on,
I do. I pick
hockey
baseball.
on?
I watch
and so on?
baseball.
Well, we'll see.
too early, hockey and NBA, I sit them back.
Yeah,
I put them back.
see it back. It's early, but interested. Going to watch a World Series.
That's
Didn't
what I
watch
watch.
Much
I watch
baseball this
baseball,
year,
too.
but going to watch a World Series. Hey, that's it for us. We've run out of time. We'll see you next week.
From high school sports to community events and beyond, you can find all of your favorite local shows on the Armstrong Neighborhood Channel.
Hi, I'm Tricia from the Butler Buzz. You can watch my show or other local programming like Up for Adoption or Hunting Nostalgia, only on the Armstrong Neighborhood Channel.
Check us out right now on Channel 100 or search Armstrong Neighborhood Channel on YouTube for playlists and much more. Spirit, town pride, community. This is the Armstrong Neighborhood Channel.